Hello and welcome to another episode of Drinking with Comics, New Comic Book Day and a Beer. I'm Sean. Today we're going to do another beer from Ohio. This is from my trip a couple weeks ago. This is Warped Wing, great brewery. This is their 10-ton black lager. I've had a couple black lagers over the last few years. I like them. I think the way that I kind of stumbled onto that style was there's a chain brewery called Rock Bottom, and probably like 12 years ago, I went in there because I was near the one that was in Long Beach, and they had a black IPA. This is kind of right before the IPA thing really went nuts, and they were everywhere. It's really good. Like I really liked it, and I talked to the brewer there, and he was telling me that the way that the black is that they roast the hops longer, and it gives it a smokier flavor. So now we're starting to see this applied to lagers. I mean, I'm sure they existed before, but I wasn't aware of them. Like I said, the last couple of years I've been seeing them. So I picked this up. And Warp Wing, great brewery, really nice place to go. Lot of seating. It's all kind of like that German like beer hall style seating. Very cool. I had some very good nights there. So as you can see, the color, I mean, it looks like a porter. You got the, you know, chocolatey head on it, and then the just ink black body. Can't really pin the nose down. So I drank a couple of these on the trip. I already had a buzz, so I when I had them, it was kind of hard to really determine how I felt about it. It's interesting. It hits very quickly at the front of the tongue and then kind of disappears. But as it disappears, as it moves across your tongue, it also kind of removes moisture. So it reminds me a little bit of one of those very overcooked IPAs. But I don't know. This is one, tasting it again now. It's fairly innocuous. It's good. It's almost creamy, which is weird for a lager. For 4.5% alcohol. So it's not going to do you wrong if you drink too many of them. I mean, unless you drink too many of them. But yeah, so Warped Wing, 10-ton black lager. There you go. Another good beer from Warped Wing. Love Ohio. So this week, pretty big pull. So this was not on my pull, but my co-host Anthony from the Horror Vision mentioned this to me recently, and I was like, oh yeah, that's coming out. So this is Book of Butcher, which is from the, James Tinian. It's in the world of Something is Killing the Children, which I'm a big fan of. I'm not reading House of Slaughter. I read the first two arcs. I didn't care for it too much. I like the concept where it's kind of an anthology that jumps around and deals with different people and eras from the different houses in his mythology for this. Anthony, I think we discussed this a little bit. We did a Horror Vision episode about 6 months ago that's basically are Something is Killing the Children and Department of Truth related? And the short answer is I think yes, but even if it's not the case, one of the things we talked about, we kind of both see where Something is Killing the Children going. I mean, this is obviously just our guess, but the idea that Erica will end up making her own house at some point. And so I think this is going to play into that. This is dealing with Maxine from the House of Slaughter to be the next Black Mask, because with Erica gone from the House of Slaughter, they need a new Black Mask. So they're training this girl. They send her to New Orleans to the guy that trains for the House of Butcher, or Boucher, I should say. And it was good. So it's one of these. There was another book. I forget what it was. It might have been book of I don't know, something, Book of Dragon, something a couple months ago where it was an oversized $10. And there was a narrative going on, but the narrative serves to set up like the main character of the book reading certain tomes of knowledge. You get those pages in here. And what this book does is it breaks down all of the monsters. Now, I read the story pages. I didn't really read the monster pages, but you see like Obscura Type, which is that's the monsters we saw in the very first arc in Something is Killing the Children. And it kind of goes into them. And then there's Anima Type, Duplacite, which we've seen in the New Mexico one. That's the doppelganger. that takes Erica's shape. Kind of interesting as it goes on. There's a Nosferatu type, and those can be broken down into classic vampire, succubus and incubus, and psychic vampire. There's Dragotype, which are dragons. And so it seems like they are definitely incorporating like all of our real world monster archetypes into this. So I think that's kind of interesting. I will read these pages at some point. I really wanted to get through the story first for this episode. So yeah, so it's $10. It's a little pricey. Nice cover, but if I would say if you're like me and you love something that's killing the children, you're interested in where it's going, you don't read House of Slaughter, then I think you could still dig this. This doesn't feel like House of Slaughter. If you read House of Slaughter too, you'll be fine with this. So, but yeah, so this is Book of Butcher. Next, so Skybound from Image, that's Robert Kirkman's imprint. They kicked off their GI Joe uh, series this week with the first issue of this Duke title. So this is going to be like a couple issues. It might be two or three. It's a mini series, and starting in I think January, there's a Cobra Commander one, and this is how they're kind of getting us into GI Joe and the Energon universe. And if you're reading Transformers, you know there was a scene, and I think the second or third issue where Duke was one of the pilots in a jet that saw, I think I forget it was Starscream or Skywarp or Thundercracker transform from a plane to a robot. So he saw this, and so this deals with him basically trying to figure out who's lying to him. And this is apparently before the inception of the Joe team. So it was pretty good. I don't love Duke. He's one of my least favorite characters, Conrad S. Hauser. So I was really skeptical about like, a couple years ago, they tried to relaunch the movie series and they went in with like a Snake Eyes standalone, which I don't like that. Like, don't go in focused on one character. The movies, they're just doomed. This is good. There was some interesting stuff in here. I don't want to say too much, but you get some cool characters in this one. So yeah, I don't know. I guess we'll wait and see. So I did like this. I do think if you're a Joe fan, I think you'll dig this. It's early, it's an early chapter, so it's not great, but I see great things. So a couple final issues. So this is James Tinian and Lissandro Etherin's Nightmare Country, The Glass House. This is the sixth and final issue of this. So Nightmare Country has been broken up into two 6-issue arcs so far. There's Nightmare Country, and then now there's Nightmare Country Glass House for the last 6 months. There was a Thessaly one-shot that fit in as well with this. I was unsure starting this issue so is this the end of this series? But apparently at the very end it says the Nightmare Saga will conclude in 2024. So I'm assuming there'll be another 6-issue series in a couple months once we're into the new year. This was good. I need to sit down and reread all of Nightmare Country start to finish again in like a single burst to really kind of revel in what they're doing. I still think this is the most like Neil Gaiman's original Sandman series anybody's ever come. So I applaud Tinian for that. It just feels more like the Sandman universe than any of the other books they've done that have that tag. So, but I don't love the art. It fits in with this kind of Sandman art that we've seen before, but I just feel like it's a little too imprecise at times. But all the character designs are really cool. And this story, there's a bigger picture shaping up that involves other members of the Endless. And, how many times have we seen Daniel as the Dream King? Not that many. So he's in this issue quite a bit. So yeah, so I don't know. It was a pretty good final issue, and now we know there'll be more. So Immortal X-Men 18. Man, I don't know, fuck this book. Where X-Men Red just really went out, I saluted. Like, it was just fantastic. This is just more. I'm just not digging this since the last issue. I just feel like some of the stuff we're getting into this like Grant Morrison territory where at some point you see a character actually like writing out their future in blood in front of them on this all white surface and then they're peeling it up like a page. And I'm just thinking, like, man, Morrison did this 20 years ago, and not in the X-Men. I'm talking about like the Invisibles and the Filth. But that stuff, obviously, like people like Morrison set trends with their original stuff that then echoes for, for years and decades through superhero books. And so that's what we're seeing. But I don't know. I just I didn't like this issue, and the way that, the big gotta see with this is, okay, so which Sinister clone is the Dominion, this god basically outside of time and space? And they don't really tell you at the end, but they suggest something, and it's kind of topical and relevant. And I just don't. I have very, very strong misgivings about the stuff that's going to kick off next month. I'm going to read it for a while, but yeah, I don't know. Immortal X-Men, it started out so good, that in the first issue, that the reveal of Sinister and all his Moria clones so that he could just have save points in reality. I just thought that was one of the most insane concepts I've ever seen in a big two superhero book, and I loved it. And this is issue 18, and he's trying to approach things in a very meta way, and it's just failing big time for me. So I don't know. We'll see. Ghost Rider 21. This is the end of Benjamin Percy and Carlos Nieto's run, but it starts back up in March. So this provided really not. I don't know. This book has been real hot and cold for me. I'm sure I've said on here before. There's times when I've had strong Clive Barker Books of Blood like undertones to it, and that has kept me going. But I've never really liked Talia Warroad, which is this FBI agent from an occult department that they've been on the path of this Mephisto cult that she was involved with when she was younger. And this story, I didn't love it. The way it ended, it didn't really wrap anything up. It just sets up the fact that when it comes back in March as a new number one, it won't be Johnny Blaze, I guess. So I don't know. I won't be reading that. I'm good. And like one of the guys at the comic shop pointed out today, really Bjorn Berens, the cover artist, he's the real reason I feel like a lot of people are reading this. These covers, I never bought books for covers before, hardly ever, but man, I can't fault. Like every single one of his covers has been absolutely gorgeous, and I don't regret buying them. I'll support the books, but I don't know. Don't let the door hit you on the ass on the way out. Moving into some really awesome stuff. So we've got Jeff Lemire and Andrea Sorrentino's Tenement #7, and you see right here Revelations, right? Boy, they weren't kidding. So this is the most about the Bone Orchard mythos we've gotten in a single comic. Like, or even if you put all the other comics together, this really, really outlines a lot of stuff like solidly. And we kind of have a better idea what we're dealing with as far as a mythos. The art is always just absolutely gorgeous. And I know I loved this. I love this book. I think there's only 2 or 3 issues left. That sucks. I know there'll be more Bone Orchard, but man, wow. Army of Darkness Forever, #3, is solid. Continues it. We're still splitting our time between um, Medieval and the Deadites and the Sheila and the whole cast from Army of Darkness, right? Sans Ash. Still dealing with Deadites, and then you've got that. You've got Evil Ash at the S Mart in 1993, which is kind of funny, and you've got Ash in the future with the Rip Van Winkle shit going on. And yeah, it was good. It's just kind of a corridor issue. Nothing big happens, but I enjoyed it. And then I finally got to catch up on the 2 books I was waiting for. So I got my Phantom Road #7. This book is fucking crazy. There is a moment in this book where they had alluded to something before, and you just see like some havoc being wrecked. And I'm like, oh, wouldn't it be crazy if that's that? And sure enough, it was. This is one of the best books on the stand right now. I even like this. I think as far as Jeff Lemire stuff go, I love the Bone Orchard mythos same way I loved Gideon Falls. It's very much in my wheelhouse with the weird fiction, kind of almost David Lynch stuff. This is just fun as fuck. And I mean, I feel like if I had to pick one at gunpoint, I'd probably go with Phantom Road just because I'm like, what? There's so many like what the fuck moments. And I can't wait to see how it plays out. So super cool. And then Newburn 13. I'm wondering if this book is going to go on very much longer. I know there's a 14 coming out, but they're really setting up an end game that I'm not seeing some of these characters get out of. But of course, that's if anybody could do it, Zdarsky could do it. So, but yeah, just this. If you like the Brubaker Phillips stuff, right? I mean, it's Jacob Phillips, so Sean Phillips' kid doing the art. He also does that Texas Blood. Um, if you like that kind of street level crime book, I think you'll love this. Somebody needs to pick this up and make this like a Prime or Netflix show because it would I feel like it would be even better in that format. I feel like they're writing this specifically for that to happen. And last, so I just another Marvel previews. I feel like these come out like every other week, and so I'm looking through this, and I'm happy that there's a lot of stuff that I'm kind of jettisoning in the next year because I mean, there's the price tag, but so I'm trying to figure out what the X books I'm going to follow. So there's Fall of the House of X, Rise of the Powers of X. I'm going to read those because to come this far and not read them would be foolish. Unless they really piss me off, then I won't. Um, and I'm going to keep reading Jerry Duggan's X-Men because they haven't. It looks like it's not resetting or like it's continuing. And so like the promo art and here is Alana and Kitty Pryde and her Shadow Cat, that kind of ninja suit she's been running around with the sword, fighting these AIM/Orcus agents. And I know it looks cool. So I mean, I love that book. I'm going to keep reading it. But so that's 3X books. And I know there's a Resurrection of Magneto, which I will be reading because it's written by Al Ewing. So, and I am definitely curious to see how they bring Magneto back. He very quickly went from being a character I've hated my whole life to one of my favorites, and they killed him. And then I forgot about this. There's an X-Men Forever by Kieran Gillen. So we know now there was some announcements or something I read last week, right after I posted last week's episode, that, as I said on this show, the Phoenix Force is very much going to be a big part of whatever comes after the Krakoan era. Now, I don't know. I don't know if I think ending the Krakoa era means exactly what we think it's going to mean. I think it would be a shame to get rid of Krakoa. And just, there's so much, I mean, it's better to leave them wanting more than give them too much. But my fear is that we go back to just having X-Men books like we've had for, decades, where it's just the same shit all over again. These are the good guys, these are the bad guys. They fight one another and it just rotates who's fighting who, blah, blah, blah. Events every year, whatever. I feel like that went away with Hickman, and now you can feel it has returned during Kieran Gillen's run, but he's definitely used the events in a way that I feel like they've worked for the most part. I didn't feel like it was, an event just for the sake of being an event, even though that's totally what they were. I mean, Judgment Day, that's what it was. But he was writing the Eternals, he's writing X-Men, and so I'm sure editorial dictated he do that, and he did it in a smart way, and we're still seeing echoes from it. So I think that's what makes it okay. I don't know. I've really enjoyed this, and I just have grand misgivings about where they're going. So I don't know. But anyway, so that's the poll for this week. Tomorrow, Mike Schinenbarger and I will be doing our favorite comic of the year episode. So watch for that before the end of the week. And until then, cheers. Hi, I'm Sean. Join me and my friends every week for the Horror Vision, where we talk about horror movies.
A pandemic of violence floods the streets of major cities as cases of the media-dubbed murder virus, MV20, soar, causing those infected to go on killing sprees. Caught in the middle, police detective Angela Miller finds her only trustworthy ally in the self-proclaimed psychic PI, Gerald Henry. As the two try to navigate the violence, they are drawn into New Age guru Abramelin Harvest's plot to heal the planet. Harvest's missive?
The world is sick, and humanity is the infection.
The cure? Murder. From the twisted mind of Sean C. Baker, author of A Collection of Desires and Shadowplay in Book 1, Kim and Jesse, comes his most vicious novel yet, Murder Virus. Available